Hey everybody, this is Leslie Roder with the Marketers Braintrust, and I'm joined today by Michelle Chance Sangthong and my founding partner Dan Thies. And today in this particular hangout, we promised you the kind of the math of business. However, I am feeling extraordinarily under the weather and can only barely talk for about 10 seconds without having a coughing fit. And so we've postponed that presentation, and we're going to bring you instead
Different presentation.
An award-winning presentation. I'm sure it'll win some awards. We should create one by Dan Thies.
Yes, whose presentations are always better when he finds out he's going to give them a couple hours before it happens.
Absolutely, because
I don't go around crushing cans out of stress or anything, because I got this.
Because he's just a kind of a can crusher normally.
Yes, but we're right in my wheelhouse. I'm an idiot savant, so I can deliver a presentation like that.
Well, you know, when you look up Dan the Man in the dictionary, it's your picture there, buddy. So, just saying.
And there's some can crushing. I think there's a reference to can crushing.
I'm sorry that I drew in your dictionary, Michelle. Quit giving me a hard time about it.
Yeah, thanks indeed. All right, so what were you doing in her dictionary? That sounded dirty. All right, so here we go. And so Dan is going to actually have a presentation about shopping and that stuff, and I will be back next week, not coughing, and we'll go over the math of business and what metrics you should be looking at, and how you know whether you in fact are making money, how scalable you are, and how to even make more money with the existing business you do have now. And so with that tease, and I apologize for being sick. Been sick since Thanksgiving.
You should be sorry.
I should be. I am sorry. Personally, deeply sorry, as it turns out. So let's see. Dan, are you ready to go live? Present to everyone. And yeah, oh wow, there's a presentation there even. Oh my God, who knew?
Yes, I gave my presentation the chilling title, Why We Measure.
That's dun 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 dun. We should have music for that.
Well, you know, I mean, we one of the toughest things that we run into with trying to help people out with growing their business is how much we learn about what they don't know about their business. And a lot of the time when we're trying to get to the place where we can kind of understand the business model and how all the parts and pieces fit together and all that, well, most of the time we run into a problem with measuring. That is, there's something we'd like to know that simply hasn't been measured. Sometimes that can be recaptured from archives of data, and sometimes it can't. And so what I wanted to do today, and this will get everybody a chance to get some things done this week that might help you understand your business math next week a little bit better, or at least understand where the numbers from your math are going to come from. So what we do, and this is a hyper-simplified view, reduced to a very scientific-looking diagram with drop shadows. You're welcome. Of what we do with online marketing. We have traffic that comes from a source. That traffic is actually people, by the way. Those people visit our website. Sometimes we actually do things that involve stuff that's not on our website, but they're doing something on that internet one way or another, and we'll just call that a website visit here. From there, most of the time we're either capturing them as a lead, these days joining them into a remarketing audience, which is the same thing as a lead. It's just a different kind of a lead that goes into a different kind of a campaign. And then after that, we deliver or fulfill on whatever we promised. And of course, after that, if you once you understand the math of your business, you'll likely be doing stuff beyond that to sell to the same customers again, to do remorse removal, whatever you might be doing on the back end. But the follow-up marketing is a big piece that, well, I'm not going to dive into today, but it's also very, very important. Michelle, would you agree that follow-up marketing is important? How much money did you make from customers that were already customers when you were getting customers every day?
I was customering way more money.
Way more.
Scientifically proven. For those who needed customer product again, I made more money off of them.
Fantastic. I love it. great testimony for the need to be able to make more money. So.
Well, and that's before all the opportunities we have now with.
Yeah, buddy.
That's just when you had an email and you said, "Hey, you bought from me before. Would you like to buy from me again?"
Yeah, and we actually had to, use lead type to set every email back then. Now you can customize and personalize, and I was looking at a solution a couple of days ago that lets you actually put charts into emails and stuff automatically, which is really freaking cool. And I was thinking of all kinds of cool ways to use it. But then I had to get ready and do a presentation here, and that presentation is really about the importance of measuring and why we measure. The big questions when you're looking at your strategy for measurement are you measuring everything? Well, you're not measuring everything, but are you measuring everything that you could measure easily and cheaply in case you need it? And are you making the effort to measure the things that might be a little bit harder to measure, but they're important because the things that they measure are part of the success or failure of every transaction, every campaign in your business? And then are you using that information? I know a lot of people that have gone the extra mile with analytics implementation on retail stores, but then don't actually make use of or know how to do anything in, say, for example, in Google Analytics with the product data that's in there. And Michelle, you've been in there, and how fast we're able to accelerate the progress in shopping campaigns through AdWords, for example, by having access to analytics data about what products sold and where did they sell, and what sources of traffic were those, and what category pages are working well and which ones aren't that we might be able to use as landing pages. There's a lot of data in there what products people buy off of a particular category page tells you a lot about the intent of search terms that were driving traffic to it. And if you know how to use that stuff and filter your analytics reports, you can do a lot of amazing things. And you can't optimize everything. That's a little bit of a joke, because optimizing everything would mean, well, optimizing isn't about perfecting, it's about improving. And the analysis is to figure out what's that best leverage point where a little improvement will make the biggest difference in improving the quality of the business. Because a lot of people are just squinting at charts. I know people that spend an hour a day looking at Google real-time analytics, just watching numbers move, and like, ooh, there's a dot in Ireland, yay. Maybe they'll buy something from me. Oh, no, they didn't. Don't do that. Don't just squint at charts. What you want to do is get the things that matter measured. And one of the things that Leslie's going to help you figure out next week, if you don't already know, is very, very much so what you need to be measuring in your business so that you can get those measurements in place. But let's just look at how many people in here are running real analytics. And I would be willing to bet that almost everybody here on the Hangout with us today is running a real analytics solution. I used to give this talk 10 years ago. It's almost the same talk that I gave 10 years ago, by the way, because, well, they only gave me 2 hours. But it's all still true. The only difference now is that you've all got a real analytics solution, because you don't have to pay for a real analytics solution anymore. You can get a very good solution from Google for free. Yeah. And, if you don't, we're not even going to do the tinfoil hat talk today, because Leslie's would end up coughing, and I don't want to kill the man. I just want him to, take a little time today and maybe try and rest.
Dan, but I even remember, and sorry for interrupting, but I remember before there was Google Analytics, that's how old our stuff was, we were paying $9.95 a month, $995 a month for a baby version of an analytics package before GA came along.
Yeah, well, when I met you the first time, I was paying about $11,000 a month between the few companies I was working with, between them. For different analytics solutions, and $3,500 a month to run a ClickTrack server, because the data that we were getting out of it was that valuable. The fact that you can do the same thing for free does not diminish the value.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
You were running high 6-7 figure somewhere in there retail store and paying $1,000 a month for analytics because it was that important.
And it was cheap in comparison, absolutely.
So It's amazing what people look askance at now. That would you pay somebody $1,000 to set up Google Analytics for you? Well, I would. If I needed it and I didn't have it and I needed it done right, sure I would. But it's available now and it's free, and so everybody has at least some bit of it in place. But as time goes on, and you don't update and get to universal analytics and an implementation that uses Google Tag Manager and all of the incredible capabilities that gives you to rapidly decide to measure something and start measuring it, you're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to be competitive if you don't have this data. It's that simple, right? I mean, Michelle, you paid $1,000 a month for analytics to be competitive back then when it wasn't nearly as competitive as things are now.
Right, and it helped me a lot.
Absolutely.
I think that's interject. I mean, that's one of the standard memes is you cannot control what you do not measure.
Exactly.
I mean, and so if you do, it's what I tell people about analytics is like, okay, so what do you use for your accounting package? And most people, for the folks we talk to, they're using something, QuickBooks, right? It's like, okay, so would you just go ahead and operate your business without QuickBooks? Well, no, of course you can't do that. You can't even do taxes at the end of the year, right? It's like, okay. So what you're saying is that you need to measure the revenue, expenses, net profit of your business, right? Okay, well, cool. And so you know where all that money comes from, right? It's from your website. And so if you're not measuring your website, you're not actually measuring how you even got the money that goes into QuickBooks, and you think that that's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Leslie, if you look at what everybody's probably tracking when the defaults are in place is they're tracking visits from some campaigns, from some sources, right? But not necessarily all, because in some cases you need to add tagging to the URL. That's very easy to do. Google has a thing called a URL builder that you can find online by typing URL builder into Google. It'll let you build a link for any page anywhere on the internet that'll track analytics. And by the way, you can use that to send messages to people in their analytics if you like to. If you're going to send 1,000 people to a website, you can make the campaign say Dan says hi, stuff like that. But you can know that it came from Facebook, from this ad, from this campaign, and that actually lets us not just segment and track visitors by the actions they take on our site, but we can actually relate that to things like demographics. So we can tell what percentage of men are playing the video on this landing page versus women, and so that we can start to think about what landing page should we deploy to which people. Doing this kind of stuff can make your paid traffic from channels like Facebook 2 and 3 times as productive over time, but you have to be measuring to be able to get these insights from the data. Once you've got the measurement in place, then it's just as easy as just running the campaigns like you normally would. But with this kind of measurement, you can go back and actually learn a lot and improve it. We did a training called Targeting, Segmenting, and Analysis. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that was kind of the precursor to the Universal Traffic Engine training, and a lot of people went nuts with that stuff and discovered a lot of things. But those were the people that did that. The people that had those success stories were the people that had all the measurement in place and tracked things through as much as they could end to end. Honestly, if you get a lead into Salesforce or a CRM system, it wouldn't hurt to know the search query that brought them there if they actually came in and converted on a search query. Now, most of the time we've got attribution and all those other kind of things, but worrying about how you're going to account for all the different ways that people come into contact with your brand shouldn't get in the way of you making sure that you're measuring what happens from each channel directly. Because that's the most important thing. That's the thing that you're going to have to be able to count on with any attribution model that you use. So again, if you're running a real analytics solution and you've got Google Analytics tags on your site, are you really using it? What's your average revenue per visit last week? That's probably something that you want on a dashboard with some history so that you can see if that's going up or going down. If it's going down, you want to be able to go and look at which channels did it go down in, which channels is it going up in, how can we improve those things? Do we have a test going on right now where, once the test is done, this winner is actually going to increase that? But when your numbers are moving up or down, you want to know why. and so that you can do more of what drives things up and less of what drives things down. Looking at for the retailers, what about your average revenue within a particular product category? What's your average order size perhaps within that product category? Which of your ads are the most profitable ads for people that are doing affiliate marketing or any kind of referral or partnership marketing? What's the value per visit? I used to send out, in any given week there would be hundreds of my articles being sent to different email newsletters once upon a day, because I would buy ad slots in any email newsletter that reached anything remotely close to a targeted audience with a free opt-in, and if I got a good rate on those, I would start paying them to publish my articles. I could tell you for each one of them how much money I was willing to spend for how many clicks I should expect to get and what the value per visit of their list was, so that I could stop paying for ads in the lists that didn't produce and pay more for ads that did in the lists that did produce, because those are the ones that I wanted relationships with. All of this stuff, all these numbers, this stuff, depending on what business you're in, it could be profoundly important. What's the bounce rate for your purple widget landing page, and how does that compare to your other category landing pages? If you're looking at all of them, that can be a way for you to kind of get a leading indicator when you have low traffic conditions of which one should I focus my attention on to improve and get better performance. But if you don't have the numbers, you can't do it.
Well, I think, Dan, what you're really pointing out there, if I can, maybe this is actually spoiling the punchline maybe a little bit, but you don't want to be looking at every single possible metric. What you want to be looking at those metrics that are most important or key, the critical success factors for your particular business, and some of those are going to be more important than others. And I think that where people kind of really lose it is that they don't even have Google Analytics installed or configured at all. They don't have goals configured. They don't have e-commerce configured. They don't have a funnel characterized. Right? So those are like basics, right? You've got to get that done. And then what you don't want to do is you want to say, oh, well, the way I measure my business is in revenue. No, revenue comes from these other things, but figure out what are those things that I can measure on my website that I have found are going to result in better revenue, better profit, whatever. And what you gave is kind of there is almost a laundry list, right? I mean, it's like any one particular business probably doesn't want to measure all of them, true, or look at all of them.
The thing is, the measurement process is almost entirely passive once you've got the systems in place. You're always gathering more information than you'll ever need in a lot of areas, but that's so that you don't miss information that you do need. And a lot of this stuff you're gonna review on a different cadence. So there's stuff that'll matter every week. There's stuff that'll matter on a bi-weekly, a monthly, quarterly, and maybe even an annual basis. Right, when you're dealing with seasonality, we do a quarterly review of AdWords accounts to try and suss out if there are strong seasonal variations we should be thinking about. Should I be expecting volume to go up? Should I be expecting it to go down? Should I be expecting bids to go up? When should I expect that to happen? Can I put a date on the calendar? That's all stuff that we do in AdWords. But if we don't have the measurement in place, it's not crippling to the sense that you can't spend money on ads, but it does make it really hard to make it work. And the thing is, everything that you do to generate traffic to your business, every activity, every campaign, no matter what it is, you can get some sense of what that's worth, right? And so you can focus more of your effort on the things that are more productive, and maybe at the expense of things that are less productive, right? Because ultimately, where should your resources go? You should, if you've got one channel that flows dollars at 2 times the speed of the other, then you want to work on that channel until you hit diminishing returns to where, okay, now I'm going to work on the next best channel, and the next, and the next, and the next. And at some point, you'll be working on your Twitter direct message marketing somewhere around 45 or 50 clicks down the row of priority for most businesses, which I know people that have spent hours trying to figure out the ideal strategy for that, which they're still not sending out email. But I digress. But you should be measuring what's going on with your campaigns to excess rather than to a lack, and why would you do that? Well, you could double your sales, you could quadruple your sales, you could do better than that. I've got an example I've been showing forever, where just by measuring what was going on, tripled the sales and literally made 6 times the profit, because this is AdWords, and we were able to focus in on it and improve our click-through rate, as well as our average order size, as well as our conversion rate, and all of these things. The target ranking that they were after with this, and this is kind of a squinty little chart here, but what they were doing was they were following kind of the conventional wisdom that, you get cheaper clicks farther down the page. And this is one of my favorite lies that Google tells, that the conversion rate doesn't vary by ad position, but the average value per visit, the dollar value per visit in the top spot was $2.92 a click. $1.92 in the third spot in the top box, and $1.80 in the second spot in the top box. Those are essentially a tie, statistically speaking. And then it went down from there the farther you went down the page. And when you start to look at there's a large number of these clicks that happen farther down the page, in the area of the 4, 5, 6, 7 positions. They were losing money on those clicks. They were literally losing money on those things. And if we hadn't instrumented everything and linked our AdWords to analytics at our earliest opportunity, like the day they made that available, we had that set up, we wouldn't have known this. They would have lost an entire season worth of data if they just dragged their feet on getting up to date with analytics. And I fear that this is happening to a lot of other people as well.
I'd like to make, I know we're talking about measurements here, but I got to say something about the whole AdWords and the way that's laid out on the page. Because I think there's this deep psychological ploy going on here. I think that Google understands that putting those things, the top 3 above the search results, and then stringing the rest down the side, appeals to something that people are already wired to do. And so if I go to a leaderboard, if I go to any list that anyone else has created, and they're listed from 1 through 10, I'm going to, without any messaging to the contrary, I'm going to assume that the one at the top is the best. I'm going to assume that they're rank ordered by best, not by how much they paid to be there.
Yeah, and even if you know that they're ranked by how much they paid to be there, the first one that satisfies your need wins.
True.
And most people don't start clicking at the bottom of the page. That's why the click-through rate is higher at the top.
And besides, and then even if you say, well, they paid to be there, but wait, they could afford to be there, and therefore they're the best.
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
You don't have Super Bowl ads from, well, yeah, you do have Super Bowl ads from the bad beers, but never mind. That's
yeah. So what made GoDaddy so huge? I mean, it's a domain registrar. It has GoDaddy ads. Super Bowl ads. What is wrong with this? The world we live in, right? We're a domain registrar, who we think of as something that's like almost at the bottom, at the food trough in the farm, right? Has Super Bowl ads. They're set alongside Apple. Like, what is wrong with this picture? What? Well, yeah. A whole lot right about the picture. But anyway, I digress. So continue on with measurement. I just wanted to point out to people the whole notion of being paid to be at the top.
I got a good one.
Okay, so I want to do one more thing, Michelle, and then I want to hear from you, because I want to wrap up the point on this slide. So right here, if you're looking at it, and again, this is a very squinty chart, and I'm sorry, I can read it if I look at the monitor close enough, so you'll probably be able to see it on YouTube on the replay if you can't see it now. But T1 means the top spot in the top box. T3 and 1, 2, 3, or 5, those are positions for the ads down the rail. Now imagine that you weren't looking at data for keyword and position. What if you're looking at men this age, female, this age range, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fans of pork belly or pork rinds that are female between 20 and 24. Oh my gosh, they're converting at a crazy rate. This kind of data, you can do this same kind of approach, and you have this same kind of variance going on within every activity that you do. And so what did we learn about this particular channel, this particular search result through AdWords? We learned that we wanted to buy that top spot and that we were willing to pay a lot more than our competitors would ever hope to pay. I don't want to tell you where I pegged the bid at here, but it's very close to that dollar per visit number, because we knew other things about our AdWords traffic, which was that half of the sales came from the phone ringing and weren't actually measured in analytics. But because we measured, we knew that, and we could actually afford to bid a lot more than the people that didn't know. The AdWords auction, and essentially every traffic auction that's out there, encourages bidders to bid to their full value. The thing that you have to account for there is that that means that where you should bid the most and be the most active is where you make the most money. And so if you don't measure, you don't know, and it's not hard to measure, but there's a discipline to doing it that makes the kind of results that we're looking at with this case here. You know, we literally tripled the sales, and it was doubling the profit from a channel that that they had pretty much given up on and thought they had optimized and had actually paid to have scripts written to keep it exactly the way it was running. When you measure and measure a little, just another level deeper and get it all in there. Well, Michelle, I mean, you deal with Facebook campaigns all the time, and you'll see huge differences in terms of sales performance and all that kind of stuff between males and females. You'll have campaigns where we already know the center of the bullseye is, you know, for this campaign is we're not even going to run it to men, and this one we're only going to run to women. But there are so many other layers. There are any big psychographic targeting, behavioral targeting that comes into play. We can measure the difference and figure out where do we want to put our money to grow the fastest.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm going to shut up and let you give me your observations, please.
Well, what I was going to say on this, and it was a good, I think we forget sometimes that humans see that top spot as the top spot. And I was sitting with a client today, and I said, click on the first one. And what I really meant was click on the first organic one. And where did they click? They clicked on the first page.
The first one.
The first one. And so it was a really good, like, boom, right in my face today, a good reminder, because when I think of the first one, I just don't even see the ads unless I'm looking for an ad. And so I think it was a good reminder for me, but this just goes right back to that. The average consumer doesn't notice and or doesn't care. And so
yeah, and one of the reasons why people are afraid to bid to that very top spot is clicking the first one is default behavior for a lot of people, right? They don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. They're almost certainly going to click the first one. I mean, when back in the day when Google expanded to search partners and the AdWords ads were running out in AOL by default, and you couldn't stop them. I had to add AOL as a negative keyword in all of my campaigns that said keywords, because when somebody searched for keywords on Google, they were searching for something about keywords, and I could show my ad and we could sell keyword reports. When somebody had keywords in their query on AOL, it was because the search box on AOL said type AOL keywords or search terms here, and then a lot of people would go to AOL, log in, click search, which caused them to do a search for that, and then they'd have a search result page with a big friendly search box that said put AOL keywords or search terms here, and then they would type their actual search terms in. So the amount of volume on that was amazing, but that is a lot of people, that's the default behavior. And the thing is, when you're dealing with very untargeted, low intent queries, you're not necessarily wanting to be at that very top spot. In this case, what we discovered was that the highest volume generic term in this retailer's market was in fact a query that was laden with intent to buy once we got the ads right and the landing pages right and figured out how to monetize that channel. Knowing that it was a big opportunity and recognizing that we were doing better as we moved up to the top of the page, that might as well just be blood in the water for a shark. If you see this in analytics on anything, it's like, I need to work on improving that landing page. I want to get that dollar per visit. I think they got it up over $8 within a year after I left, once they got somebody in and started doing some testing behind the AdWords work. nobody else could afford to bid anywhere close to what they could afford to bid because they did the work. But it starts with doing this kind of measurement. So that's all I have that I wanted to formally present.
Dan, there's a really good question from Dan. Dan, there's a great question from Dan. I'm assuming you didn't actually see the question. That would be typical, right?
No, I can't, because unfortunately, in order to do the cool, slick, easy screen share, I'm actually looking at my speaker view of the presentation on my other screen.
You get around the refer.
Hello?
Leslie, you muted yourself out.
Good. He's probably cussing. He cusses a lot.
No, I don't. Damn it. Anyway, so here's the.
Gosh darn it!
Right.
Shucks.
I did mute the coughing, and so worse than swearing. And so Dan had asked, and it took me a little bit to kind of process the question. To do an 80-20 on getting all the key metrics, do we need anything other than Google Analytics and URL Builder? And so I think there's a whole bunch of pieces embedded in that. And so what I told Dan in chat here is URL build, anything where you have control over it. And so this is really critical. We all the time, and we do it too, because we're not actually measuring at this level. We send out email. We don't have UTM parameters on our links. Okay. If you're doing significant email promotion, really, do what we say, not what we do. Put UTM parameters on all links in your email, so that you can take that out in the campaign view in Google Analytics. You can see that kind of the revenue you're getting from that, conversion you're getting from your email, is identified specifically. Whenever we work with clients, we want to make sure they're doing that, so that we can tell, when we give them campaigns to run, that those are being effective, right, etc. So definitely. Now, the thing is, you don't really have an opportunity in search and in social to do that. In PPC, obviously you do. You need to make sure that you've got UTM parameters over there, and Dan's your guy on that.
You can in social, Leslie, I hate to tell you.
Of course you can. You always can. Okay. It's just that what steps do you need to take, and is it one of those things that the default is not to have it, right? True, yes, no?
Yeah, I mean, if you just, because we do things fast in social, right? And so we just go out in there and we shoot it out there. But if I've been training the folks that I'm working with now. In fact, I went over with a client yesterday. I took them to the UTM Builder page, and I said, you only need to do this for things you want to track, which means everything that comes back to your website.
Pretty much, so everything, yeah. Only the things you want to track, which is everything. So yeah, that was one of those really, classic doubles. So absolutely, you want to, wherever you have an opportunity to add UTM parameters, tracking parameters, you should do that. Now, thing is, in search, you don't. So how do you deal with that? And that gets to the whole private search or secure search or whatever the hell they're calling it. It's all BS. Okay. The only way you can deal with that is to convert your sites entirely to HTTPS. Now, it's a beating. It is an absolute beating. I hate to recommend that people do that, but the reality is, that a normal compliant browser is going to strip the refer domain off, the refer header off of a transaction between a secure and a non-secure. So that's to say, if go to Google, you'll notice when you go to google.com, it redirects you, 301, to HTTPS google.com. You do a search for, hey, your brand name, whatever. You click that link, and you end up on your site, which is probably http://mywonderfulwebsite.com. The challenge here is that the standard says that the refer header should be stripped. Now, this is down. I've now told you the Google company line. That is to say that Google has said we're going to do 100% secure, and therefore all of you non-secure guys are left out in the cold. The reality is that they still lied because they're using a redirect in all of their search results, have been forever, in order to measure search quality, and so they could just as easily have provided us with keyword data. Instead, they decided that nobody is to be trusted with keyword data except themselves. So it's an effing lie. It's pure, plain and simple. There's no such thing as like privacy about search, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's complete bullshit. The reality is that they could provide the data to us webmasters, and it would be good for the web, in my opinion. But setting that aside, the real problem right now for analytics is if we go from an HTTPS to an HTTP, and this is not just about Google, we'll get to that in a minute.
That's how the internet works.
Yeah, if the refer header is stripped, what happens? It looks like there was no refer. So what does that look like? That looks like someone typed your domain name into a browser directly.
In analytics, it's called direct traffic.
It's called
a lot of
direct
other
traffic.
things are also called direct traffic because it's just right. We don't know where the heck it came from.
Direct traffic means no referrer header. That's what direct traffic means.
Exactly.
And so that means anyone who typed your name into a browser location bar, email traffic that you didn't have UTM parameters on, because guess what? There's no
that
referrer,
might
there's
say
no
that
browser.
it's from Yahoo or Hotmail or Outlook or who knows where.
If they were in a screen reader, that's true. Good point. Yes.
On the other hand, if they were in an HTTPS email website and they click that link, it's going to come through with no referrer.
Yep. There's a whole bunch of it's horrible. It's chaotic actually.
And Google is driving the push of the web. I mean, you won't see services people are using to get to you that aren't HTTPS for very long. It's going to go away.
And here, guess what? If you go look at Facebook, what's right before the :// There's an S. If you look at Twitter, what's right in front of the :// There's an S. And so you got to wonder, well, hang on. When I look at my referrer data in Google Analytics, how come I see any Twitter, Facebook, or Google at all? Well, it's probably mobile. Because those browsers are, generally speaking, not fully compliant.
Yeah, there's leaky stuff, and there's this old whatever the PHP redirect that they were sending stuff through that was non-secure, so that when they redirect you, it wouldn't throw security. They went from being like the most annoying place to click a link from to being any kind of link gets through and they don't warn you at all anymore, because they've finally at least decided to, at some point, to treat us like grown-ups, even if we may be stupid grown-ups.
I don't know. I'm not sure they have a corporate policy about treating us like grown-ups, but that's another matter. And so bottom line is, what can you do in order to get good analytics, good measurement? Two things. Anything you can UTM track, anything you can, that's one. The other is switch to HTTPS. Now, I'll tell you what, that last one, that's hard work.
That's swallowing a whale, Leslie.
Yeah, in these huge ass bites. You get that? Yeah.
Best get some help with that one, wouldn't you say?
Well, certainly, get a little bit of recommendation. And so here's the thing I would do. We've helped a couple people do it. We've worked on it ourselves. It's not actually fully completed on our website because, frankly, we don't care. But here's the thing. WordPress does something. I love WordPress. I would never build a website without WordPress because it's like it runs most, high percentage of the web. However, it does one thing which is kind of ugly, and at some point they're going to change core to fix this. I know. A couple years down the road, they're going to change core to fix this. Maybe we actually should talk to our pal about that, right? And so, because what it always creates complete URLs, including the protocol, HTTP : //.
That's a bad idea.
As it turns out, it seemed like a great idea at the time, as so many things, right? What it ought to create, frankly, is what are called protocol relative URLs, which is like really bizarre. Most people don't even know it exists. And so when you say when you say href equal quote / and the page name, domain and page name, what that says is domain and page, right? So it's a full URL absent the protocol. And so at some point, I'm sure we will find WordPress update to use that in core in order to generate URLs. In the meantime, what happens, is that you decide to convert your WordPress website to HTTPS, and suddenly all your media throws errors because every single link to one of those, media items is non-secure. So I got to tell you, in the interim right now, it's messy. It is what it is, but
it is especially messy with WordPress, by the way.
It is especially messy with WordPress. I will grant.
I bet it's a lot easier with Drupal or Joomla or whatever those other ones are.
I don't know. I have a suspicion that they all generate URLs through the same sort of algorithms, and so you'd have to hack core in order to get to it. We've worked with a couple of clients just recently. I finished up an analysis, a post-move analysis for a client, and he got it all right, but it took 3 iterations for him to get it correct. And that was in a hand-grown, homegrown sort of CMS. So just bear in mind, if you really want to get perfect analytics, you got to do those 2 things. Any link you can create, you should add tracking parameters. Any link that you really can't control, you better hope that you're HTTPS, because it's likely that wherever that link is out in the wild is HTTPS these days. Didn't used to be the truth, but now it is. So Terry asked to hold off on converting WordPress to HTTPS now.
I need a business case why that data is more important than any of a million other things that Terry should be working on.
I agree with you, Dan. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we know
it's not first in the list of priorities. Unless you have a very bizarre business model that does involve paying for traffic, which would be.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's the reason Terry's asking the question. And I think the answer, Terry, is yes. You should probably hold off. I really do believe that the WordPress team is going to fix this, because it's so pervasive, it is so well known in the SEO community that we've got a tracking problem. Because
we're not the only people that have dealt with this.
So, and you know what? We should arrange that call, Dan. We should see if we can go direct. Yeah.
Well, he's up on Skype.
I know. Yeah. All right. Let's do that tomorrow.
I'm sure he misses you.
Who doesn't?
Don't we all? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Leslie, you've made me the presenter to present to everybody.
Oh, and so you're still showing, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm not, because I had to pick my nose and stuff, so I turned the camera off while I was doing that.
Oops. So now that was awesomely done, Dan.
All right. I was looking at the wrong screen to do that thing there.
I'd point out that was done for theatrical purposes. Noses were actually picked.
See, things you can do wrong in a multi-camera setup. For 50 bucks. Okay.
I just got to say, it's a side effect of sidebar. It's like good partners are so hard to find.
Yeah.
Dan will agree. But anyway, all right. So do we have any questions here? So Terry, to reiterate, yes, I really think hold off on that. I really do believe if you have a WordPress-based site, I've got to believe, I hope to God, please, that they're going to fix this soon in a way that's back compatible. I mean, they're auto-generating all those links anyway, right? So, I mean, come on, let's just change the way they do it. Should be straightforward, he said. You sure about that? Well, of course I'm sure about that. Whatever. All
it's
right.
just a couple of lines of code. Come on.
I mean, how hard could it be?
Not already. How hard can it be? I wrote code back in the 70s. I know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Dan asked, another Dan, is there a product you recommend that makes Google Analytics data really easy to read?
Knowing what you're looking for helps. But I mean, right? You're measuring things in trying to answer specific questions. Most of that. I don't spend. We don't. The biggest thing we do in analytics is try and form a hypothesis so we can run a test, and then we can look at the results of that test. The second biggest thing we do is monitor performance against certain benchmarks, so that if something starts acting weird, and that's the Google Intelligence Alerts thing, beta probably still has a triple beta tag on it. It's like beta. But that kind of stuff to let you know when something is getting out of line, so you can go look at it. And that's, something is doing exceptionally well. I want to know how I can, crank that up, and something is doing poorly. And I want to know how I can stop that and fix it. Those are the two biggest things that you're doing with analytics. And the biggest thing is when you have a question, like, gosh, I wonder if we're actually bidding right on AdWords. I wonder, okay, we're getting a lot of our sales out of this search term. Let's look at the whole picture, how that whole funnel works and all the math in it. You got to actually have all the numbers to plug into those equations, or you've got guess in the middle of your nice, pretty math equation, which you don't want more than one guess if you can help it, and you'd rather have zero.
And so I would answer the question is like, I think that the Google Analytics web interface is the easiest and most powerful way to look at Google Analytics data. The challenge we have as being an agency is that we have to look at like 50 clients, and that's a beating. And that's just, it's a serious problem, and it's, as far as we can tell, industry-wide, it's not completely solved. And so, 1 second about that, and then let's get back to your questions. I don't think it probably applies to you. And so, it's not just about analytics. You want to actually be tracking more than what's available in analytics. There are a bunch of things about social signals that you really ought to be looking at, and those are not available in analytics in current day. However, so if you wanted to look at just like one website, all right, so there's some measurement solutions around the social signals. Great, you want to look at those separately. In analytics, you can do standard reports. I mean, custom reports. You can do filtered views. You can even do profiles, which are filtered. I mean, there are a number of things you can do there that are kind of powerful in order to segment what you're actually looking at. And that's good. But in terms of when you say easy to look at, that implies to me it's like, is there something I can do that makes it obvious what I should do about my business? The answer is no. You really do have to understand the numbers around your business, and you have to be enthusiastic about digging into the numbers. You have to love analytics. I mean, the fact is, if you love money, and you're an online person, you need to love analytics. You need to approach logging into analytics as, what new can I discover today about how to
it's so incredibly freaking fast to add segments. I mean, you can set up a segment for the AdWords traffic, and any view you're in, you can just go, bam, I want to see that segment, and you can compare that to all traffic, and it just they really have built a very fantastic interface for the tool that they have. It's a lot of people have been kind of jolted as it's been changed so many times as new things get added in and stuff like that. But it's pretty hard to beat what you can get in analytics. I mean, there's a huge market for iPad apps out there, but go find me an iPad app that gives you the same view on analytics that analytics does. I think it's pretty telling that nobody's found a niche in the market to fill.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we find the same thing. We just went through, like a 6-week study of reporting applications and try to not just around analytics, but of course about analytics compliant with the social signals we track as well for our content marketing clients. And we have not found a tool that actually provides what we need. Beyond just going into the separate tools, rolling up reports and putting into basically a Word doc, and that's where we're at right now. Maybe you call that primitive, maybe not. I don't know, but I mean, the fact that that's the state of the art. But I think really
crude, but not primitive.
Yeah, maybe that's true, but I'm still kind of getting back to the question. Use the word easy.
It's not beating it to death with a wooden club. It's like an aluminum baseball bat.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a certain amount of alloy involved. Yeah. So, but it's really about easy or not easy. I don't even think the question. I would ask the question, what is the most effective or most performant way to analyze my business?
Well, and don't forget too, Leslie, and I only accidentally happen upon it because they almost hide it, but in analytics there is a dashboard that you can customize.
Yeah, that's part of the whole custom reporting stuff.
Well, there's whole libraries of custom analytics dashboards that other people have shared that you can just install.
Yeah. So you don't even have to If you want pretty
filters, all that
pictures,
stuff.
you can get it. You just gotta get out there and borrow it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if somebody's got something set up a particular way, they can actually share that with you so that you can use it in that same particular way.
Yeah, I would just, my hesitancy in suggesting that is don't view that as the answer to easy. Because that's somebody else's view. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Maybe it's their answer to easy, which is good or bad.
Everything like that is going to be highly opinionated, right? So somebody's got a dashboard. It's going to be related to the way that they're using the dashboard. And so if you're not, looking at your business the same way, that might not be relevant for you. But I think, what we'll get to next week is we'll get to a starting point for people to start to understand what are the big numbers that you want to have on that dashboard. And then you can, when you figure out how to get the big numbers that you want, then you can start to look at, okay, I want a number to break a dashboard to break out this area behind that one big number, and that's where you start to build yourself your own kind of personalized analytics tool set. But it's not that hard to learn how to use the tools, and I mean, it really is. It's a very important tool for you to use in running your business. You gotta know your way around analytics. It's just whoever's making the decisions, whoever's the business analyst in your business, and if it's not going to be you, then somebody else who knows their way around.
Yeah, and that's all I was focused on.
It's not like you got to learn JavaScript to learn how to build the reports and answer the questions you need. It's not that hard. It's picking stuff from menus and just learning what the menus do.
Indeed, and it may, even if you don't consider it easy, just bear in mind that you should consider it necessary. So, Kay, it said.
Well, it's easier than telling your kids that they can't have the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip and you could only afford Stretch Armstrong.
Okay, interesting analogy. So Ken wondered, when you use analytics with AdWords retargeting campaigns, would you keep analytics in AdWords or link them and track from AdWords? Well, I know, Dan, you always link analytics and AdWords, so I'm not sure how to interpret this. When you use analytics with AdWords retargeting campaigns, would you keep analytics and AdWords or link them and track from AdWords?
Well, okay, you can't run remarketing through AdWords without
linking analytics, right?
You wouldn't want to run ads that didn't feed data to analytics. And I think the question is, about using building audiences with analytics, which is the new analytics code lets you build remarketing audiences and do all kinds of swanky cool stuff, and that's where we do that work. That's where we do the audiences, and yeah, but you've got to actually no matter what kind of campaign, shopping, search, remarketing, display, straight up, whatever it is, there's data and views on what's going on that are in AdWords, like for example stuff in the Dimensions tab, and there's a lot of targeting stuff with remarketing that you want to be able to add with the Dimensions tab also. And anyway, I don't want to go all the way to AdWords, but there's also stuff in analytics that you need to know. This report that I showed in my screen share, where we've got the keyword data by position and all that kind of stuff, there's data here in analytics that you can't get at in AdWords, but there's also data in AdWords that you can't get at in analytics. So you really need to be using both. And if I find somebody that's not using both, well, I already know I can probably get a 10 or 20% bump out of performance just because it costs you at least that much to fly blind.
And so, by the way, if that's you, anyway. All right, so moving on. So Carl asked, in the past, there has been a shortage of IP addresses in the U.S.
That's actually the whole internet, not the U.S.
Yeah, I know, yeah. You have to have a dedicated IP to have an SSL certificate in order to have all your pages HTTPS. Is there still a shortage? There was never really a shortage. There's going to be a shortage. But let me get to that in a minute. If so, how can Google expect everyone to go to HTTPS? All right, so let's treat that. So, and I can't remember exactly the day. I was actually on an airplane when this happened, when the entire web tried the rollout of IPv6, and by the way, it completely fucking failed. We'll edit that out in the replay, I'm sure. Just did not
say it rhymes with clucking failed.
Clucking failed. It clucking failed. And so here's the thing. IPv4 which is, it's 4 octets, and so it's, anyway, never mind. It's 255.255.255.255.
256 to the 4th power is the number of addresses that are available to you.
And it's more than that. But anyway, the point is like that's the IPv4 address. Everybody knows that that's not enough going forward, and so IPv6 is a different addressing algorithm, which unfortunately is not really exactly backward compatible. It's intended to be work alongside as opposed to upgrade. And the one test that I'm aware of didn't go all that well. Now, at some point, yes, we will all move to IPv6. Most of the infrastructure of the web is already been proven to be IPv6 compliant. Someday it'll happen. In the meantime, guess what? The whole, oh my God, there's a shortage of IP addresses. Well, that was during the dot-com boom when everybody projected from 2000 up to 2005 there would be a gazillion websites, and in fact, then what happened instead is from the peak to the valley, no, not so much. Everybody has reset that expectation, reset that projection, so we're just doing fine. I mean, I think that we as a company own like 4 different SSLs, right? It's not a problem. This will, when it becomes a problem, it'll get fixed.
You know what? If it's gonna be a problem, go ahead and that shouldn't stop you from doing what's practical and important for your business. And if the internet breaks because you happen to have a secure certificate, well, we'll all show up at your house like in The Simpsons with our pitchforks and torches, and Otto the bus driver will be there at the front of the line with a torch. I don't know. I think they just use the same picture every time.
I think so. Terry asked, so if you do, this is kind of a follow-on. If you're going to start a website from scratch today, would you start HTTP or HTTPS? I would start S.
It's not even a brainer. It's cheap.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It used to be back in the day. I can't remember what I used to pay for back when I was spamming the web. I think it was like $100 for a secure certificate. It was ridiculous, per year. That should be like lifetime, right? But anyway, now I don't know what it is. It's like a round-off error. But don't worry about it. I mean, you'll get
$100 a year is a round-off error, really. I mean,
those were
have a little bit of confidence when you're starting up a new business.
I mean, those were like $1995, Dan. Those were real dollars. Anyway, so moving on.
Real money back when you could go trade it in for gold, right?
Yeah, indeed. So to answer your question, Jerry, I would definitely start HTTPS. I would go ahead and get a secure certificate. You can get one of those, and GoDaddy certificates that verifies only like the minimal things, like yes. I don't know what it verifies.
It's encrypted. That's what it says.
That's what it says.
Encrypted.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't even verify your identity or anything like that, right?
No. So, the only thing that's verified is the authority that issued the keys.
Right.
So at least like they didn't just make the thing up. They had somebody had to pay somebody a couple of bucks to defraud you at least.
Yeah. So I would absolutely do that and keep that up to date. And in fact, what's one of the things? Next time we do these, for whatever reason, we have ours like year to year. I'll do those. Next time we do it, we'll do it 10 years. Carl asked, for years, every time a client needs a dedicated IP address, I have to provide a very good reason to my web host. I have used.
And a very good reason is we're going SSL.
That's it. That's all you need. We need to go secure.
There's no arguing with that.
Boom, done. Because there is no way you can have more than one certificate per IP. It's the way SSL works. All right, so just bear in mind when you say SSL, it's the get out of jail free card. It is the means that I have to have the IP. We're done. And you can say, oh, I'm going to show on a shopping cart, or I have client confidential information. Say whatever you want. But you say, if all you have to do is say, I have to have an SSL for that site.
Well, your hosting provider doesn't want to have an argument with you about it. They just have to have a reason to put on their paperwork, and that's only they're not asking you to justify it to them. They're just, what's the reason that we use to justify it?
Exactly.
It's simple.
It is
SSL is a magic silver bullet.
It is. So when you walk into the bank,
not for everything else. Don't quote me now.
No, not for that. So when you walk into a bank and said, I'd like to draw, $11,572.18 in small bills, they're going to have you fill out a form. The bank doesn't give a crap. However, the Financial Crimes Division, the FBI, does, and so, and the bank has to have you fill out that form. Well, they have to ask you. You don't have to fill it out. By the way, that's another discussion that's not internet marketing related. And so fundamentally, the host has the same issue in mind, right? So they say, oh, he wants another IP. Okay, that's fine. There's a very simple process. It's like, why do you want the IP?
Just fill out this form, and we will issue you an IP address.
Exactly, and they don't care. They're happy to charge you the $1 a month.
It doesn't matter why you are going SSL. That's because that's not why you're asking for an IP address. You're asking for an IP address because you're going SSL.
Right.
There you go.
And they are required by ICANN to ask the question. That's it. They are required to ask the question, and they don't give a crap. What your answer is, as long as it meets the criteria, it's on the list that ICANN's given them. That's it. So don't worry about it. It's not your host. Every host is going to ask you the same question, and they're all getting that direction from exactly the same place. That's ICANN. It is what it is. So don't worry about it. And at some point, it won't even be a question, right? Because what's really going to happen, if we jump forward 10 years, we're still going to have flying cars, pretty sure. But anyway, we are going to have 100% of all web hosts will be HTTPS, and they'll have figured out how to get IPv6 to work. So that not only will every web host have its own IP address, every frickin' device bigger than a toaster, maybe even toasters.
Your kids will have multiple IP addresses.
Hanging on their body.
There will be a different IP address for their shoes, their shoelaces.
And probably a good thing, yes.
Little propeller beanie hat.
Yes.
And don't forget the IP address of their tracker.
I don't know. We track their shoes and their clothing, right? I mean, it's like, well, okay.
The subcutaneous tracker.
Yeah, okay. Now we're getting a little bit wooey. But all right, guys, moving on. So the point is, we will have IPv6, and we have absolutely no shortage of IP addresses.
There'll be an IP address for every particle in the universe someday.
Pretty nearly. I forget what it's close. It's really close. And even the
close
IPv4,
enough, I think, to last for a while.
Yeah, IPv4. There's not actually a shortage right now, so don't worry about that. So yeah, just bear in mind, go SSL. You're not going to have any pushback about that. When you say, I want SSL, it's done. They're going to give you the IP. Done. And the most you're going to have to pay for that is $2 a month. And if they want to charge you more than that, then you should definitely switch hosts, because the real charge for that, I mean, kind of the retail price charged through ICANN is $1 a month. And so, yeah, don't pay more. So
about $1.04 covers their costs. Next.
Pretty much. Yeah. All right. Good. Excellent. So how about the pass out from cold medicine? Any closing comments or worthy words of wisdom? Worthy words of wisdom. That's triple dub.
Wow, we should trademark that and change the name of our show to Worthy Words of Wisdom.
Maybe not.
Yeah, and we should that little bit right there, because that's recorded now. So now, anytime we want to, we can capture that as audio and just play michellesinging.com during a Hangout using the Hangout toolbox. She doesn't know that we have that capability, but it's too late now because it's already uploaded to YouTube and stuff. So there you go. That's all I got, though.
Yeah.
Hope you're feeling better next week, Leslie.
Oh God, I hope so too, Dan. Damnation. I know we both had this thing, this season. Jeez, I used to laugh at flu season, not anymore. So, all right. So thanks, everybody. So next week we'll actually return with the scheduled show, the one we had scheduled for this week, which was the Math of Business. Apologize, couldn't make it happen. I just didn't think you would enjoy the presentation. It was going to be a very kind of noisy, ugly affair of me hacking. And so, but next week we'll continue with what Dan presaged last week about understanding kind of the structure of business from a numerical perspective, and how you understand those numbers and use it to hey, make those numbers better and make even more money. So with that said, we'll see you all next week at 3 p.m. Eastern Time here on Hanging with the Braintrust. Thanks.
Happy January.
Oh, yeah.